A neighborhood in Richmond, Northern California, had to be evacuated Sunday when police said a man was making explosives in his home with the intent of harming the Muslim community. The suspect has been identified by the police as a 55-year-old William Celli, who appeared to be a supporter of presidential candidate Donald Trump. A post on his Facebook page recently said he would follow Trump to the end of the world. Well, before we go on to talking about the fact that he's this avid supporter of Donald Trump, let's talk a little bit more about the actual incident. A tip was received via a caller on December 17th, and the police were told that this man was making devices and was threatening to harm Muslims. So as yet, we don't exactly know what his clear intent was with the devices, but I'll come to some posts that he made on Facebook recently, and obviously that, along with this tip-off, seems to imply that it was with the intent of harming the Muslim community. The entire neighborhood was evacuated. The suspect was then arrested and booked into the Contra Costa County Jail. A pipe bomb was among the explosives that they found there. And obviously, you know, this is very concerning to officers, especially at this time in this country. Well, here's a little of what he was posting about online on Facebook. He was frequently posting, complaining, for example, about Syrian refugees, about Democrats, and about insufficiently conservative Republicans. He complained that he'd lost work recently to undocumented migrants who he believes have invaded the United States, taken welfare money, and a quote about Donald Trump. He said, "Donald Trump's on again. I'm happy leader's okay, but this guy's a great point, man. I'll follow this man to the end of the world." He posted that on Facebook on October 21st, but you know, it does seem to reiterate the fact that Donald Trump has come out making these comments about banning Muslims, and then you've got people like this who are supporting him and going out and making bombs to potentially harm the Muslim community.
Right, you have people like Celli that are fueled by opportunistic rhetoric from politicians. This increased hostility towards Muslims living in the U.S. post the Paris attacks and the ongoing Syrian crisis, the refugee crisis. And, you know, they seem to attach themselves to this sort of rhetoric. He identifies with what Donald Trump is saying. And, you know, the fear is that Muslim violence and intimidation, it's on the rise because people like this, they feel legitimate. You know, they feel like they have the legitimate right to feel this way because they hear mainstream politicians echoing this sentiment.
Well, two brothers from Boston just this summer in August, they also echoed Trump's comments. This was against Hispanic immigrants. They were then arrested after they posted about this for beating up and urinating on a Latino homeless man. In response to that, Trump initially kind of defended them almost. And he said, Donald Trump came out and said, "I will say that people following me are very passionate. They love this country and they want this country to be great again. They are passionate." Disturbing words there from Donald Trump. It also comes at a time where just a couple of days ago, public policy polling found that 30% of Republican voters said that they would back the bombing of Agrabah. Let's just remind ourselves, Agrabah is the fictional kingdom in the Disney movie Aladdin. So obviously, you know, this is in Arabia, obviously a kingdom where there are plenty of fictional Muslims. And these Republicans, when asked about a number of things, including banning Muslims from America, these were the kind of sentiments they had. 30% of them said that they would back the bombing of Agrabah, not even realizing that it was a fictional city.
You know, we talked about this here on The Lip, and it is comical to think that Jasmine and Aladdin's house would be no longer if certain people had their way. But I want to point out, it wasn't only Republicans who had this. Some Democrats polled said that they would do the exact same thing. And this sort of hawkish foreign policy where we go around bombing things, it's so ingrained in the American psyche at this point that it's you know, it doesn't even raise an eyebrow when you think about bombing a city. You know, not being able to point it out on a map doesn't seem to matter. It's not a problem. We'll just bomb it anyway.
Yeah, you are correct. 18% of Democrats, but 1/3 of Republicans saying that they would bomb this fictional place. But the highlight of this is the fact that Donald Trump, you know, he's come out, he's said these comments, very anti-Muslim comments, and then you have people like this that we found in Richmond, Northern California, creating bombs, avid supporter of Donald Trump with the intent to go out and harm the Muslim community.